Bitcoin is essentially just a Ponzi scheme. Hey, hold on, don't get dramatic yet. Don't start blaming me. It's not my words. This is actually what Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, one of the biggest banks in the United States, said. Mr. Dimon has been attacking or speaking out against Bitcoin for a long time now. So let's go ask Mr. Dimon directly. Mr. Dimon, what does Bitcoin mean to you?
Reserve currency stand.
But why? Why is Bitcoin seen as bad money? How is it used?
It's mainly used by criminals for illicit deals, money laundering, tax evasion, and other crimes.
So why do people use Bitcoin for bad things?
Because it's so modern and anonymous, it's not traceable like regular money. That's why people use Bitcoin for these kinds of things. It's hard to track, and that's what makes it appealing for illegal activities.
Wait, like what?
Since it's anonymous, it's harder to trace than regular money, which is why people use it.
Oh, I see what you mean now. It's clear that Bitcoin allows money to bypass the traditional financial system, and that system is the banking system. And remember, JP Morgan is a major bank too, which means that a massive amount of money flows through various Bitcoin transactions. Right now, there have already been almost 1 billion Bitcoin transactions since it was first created. So that means all this money flowing back and forth through Bitcoin transactions doesn't go into the banks. It doesn't enter the system. This is what's called taking market share. Basically, Bitcoin is taking away the bank's market share. And since JP Morgan is one of those banks, it means JP Morgan is losing market share to cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. That's why the money isn't flowing into the banks. And of course, it's not just Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan, you know. There's also Goldman Sachs, which doesn't really seem to be on Bitcoin's side either. Even though Bitcoin just had a major event, the Bitcoin halving, JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs both came out and said that even with the halving, it probably won't have much impact on Bitcoin's price this fourth time around. That's because a lot of money has already flowed into Bitcoin ever since the spot ETF was approved. And importantly, JP Morgan also analyzed that today's Bitcoin price, as of April 19th, when we're recording this in Thailand, is around $64,400 per Bitcoin, which they say is too expensive. According to them, the price should only be about $45,000 per Bitcoin. That means they're predicting that Bitcoin's price could drop from $60,000 down to around $45,000. Personally, I don't think that's a huge drop, but of course, there are always people who see Bitcoin in a negative light. There are also people who see Bitcoin in a positive light. And when people are optimistic about it, they are really optimistic. Let's start by looking at one of the biggest names in the industry, Elon Musk. Elon Musk once tweeted in response to new laws about taxing cryptocurrency profits, right? So taxing the gains from crypto. Elon Musk tweeted a subtle comment about it, saying that if it had absolutely no value at all, why would the government even bother taxing crypto? The very fact that the government is taxing crypto means that it's a legitimate and real financial asset, a genuine one. There's another example I want to mention, a well-known and legendary Bitcoin millionaire, Tim Draper. He bought as many as 30,000 Bitcoins directly from the US government. He is actually extraordinarily wealthy. In an interview he gave to Cointelegraph, he said, "I hope that everyone reading this article will be able to have some Bitcoin on hand to take care of themselves and their families for the day when the dollar becomes worthless." He went on to say, "I don't know if that day will come today, tomorrow, or sometime next year. Or maybe it'll be 10 years from now. But one thing's for sure, it will happen." Let me pause here and stop commenting on both sides of the Bitcoin debate for a moment. The reason I'm presenting these two extreme viewpoints in this video is to show you the different perspectives on Bitcoin and that there are reasons supporting both sides. I'll start by talking about the people who see Bitcoin in a negative light, mainly banks and financial institutions. And that's not surprising, because Bitcoin was originally designed by Satoshi Nakamoto to put money in the hands of the people. It's truly decentralized. meaning money is distributed and you don't have to trust a middleman or third party anymore. The middleman or third party I'm talking about is the current financial system, like banks, governments, and so on. We've all probably experienced things like this. For example, when a banking app crashes and suddenly we can't access our money or make transfers, even if it's just for a short time. Or a bank can freeze our funds for whatever reason. Or the government might suddenly declare a currency invalid. This has actually happened in some countries. When the government cancels a currency, suddenly the money you are holding suddenly becomes worthless. Or, for example, when the government decides to print a lot of money, right? That leads to inflation, which means even if you have the same amount of money in your wallet, say the same 100 baht bill, its purchasing power goes down. That same 100 baht bill can't buy as much as it used to. Like, people often mention how a bowl of noodles used to cost just 2 baht, but now it's 50 baht. That's inflation. Satoshi Nakamoto saw it this way: money is power. When you deposit your hard-earned money with someone, you're actually handing your power over to them. So when people put their money in banks, which are strictly regulated and controlled by the government, it means that power ultimately belongs to the government and the banks. The way to return that power to the people is to give the money back into the hands of the people so they can truly own their money. That means being able to transfer money peer-to-peer, directly from one person to another without having to go through a bank. And it's decentralized, meaning that the people who handle Bitcoin transactions, called nodes or Bitcoin miners, are spread out all over the world. No single person is responsible for overseeing Bitcoin transactions. It's distributed. This situation arose when Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin after a severe global financial crisis, known as the subprime crisis, or as we often call it, the hamburger crisis. At that time, everyone knew that the banks were giving out loans and selling what are called mortgage loans, or home mortgages. The banks already knew that these mortgages, or those mortgage loans at the time, were bad debts. People couldn't afford to pay rent. People couldn't afford to pay their home loans anymore. But instead, they took these bad debts, repackaged them, gave them high ratings, and sold them at high values. This eventually led to a bubble. The banks went bankrupt, like Lehman Brothers at the time, which triggered a global financial crisis. That's what led to the emergence of the kid in the back of the class, Satoshi Nakamoto. To this day, we still don't know who he is, or if he's even a single person or an organization. But he created Bitcoin so that we wouldn't have to trust the financial system or banks anymore. So, if what Satoshi Nakamoto designed really works as intended, then basically everyone in the world would use the Bitcoin system, and all transactions would be controlled by nodes distributed all over the world. Money wouldn't have to go through the banking system anymore, and banks might not even need to exist. If there are no banks, then governments wouldn't have a source of funds from banks, right? So it's not surprising at all that banks, the financial system, and governments today are on the opposite side of Bitcoin. It's no wonder they don't like each other. But Bitcoin has been trying to prove itself. It's only been around for 15 years. Let's take a look at how Bitcoin has proven itself over these 15 years and how its price has changed. On January 3rd, 2009, the Bitcoin network was born, along with the very first Genesis block. Then, on February 9th, 2011, Bitcoin was finally able to close at $1 per Bitcoin for the very first time. Then, on June 6, 2011, Bitcoin closed at $10 per Bitcoin for the first time. On November 28, 2012, the very first Bitcoin halving event occurred. The one that just happened recently was the fourth halving, but back then it was only the first. Then, on April 1st, 2013, Bitcoin successfully reached $100. That was the first time. Then, in 2015, when the price of Bitcoin was around $325 per Bitcoin, Jamie Dimon started to come out and oppose Bitcoin. He openly said that Bitcoin is an asset that could never be real. He said it was the longest running currency in the world, and Bitcoin was still around. It hadn't gone anywhere. Then on July 9th, 2016, there was the Bitcoin halving. On December 21st, 2017, Bitcoin closed at $10,000 per Bitcoin for the first time. In 2017, Jamie Dimon came out again and said that people who buy Bitcoin are wasting their time and aren't very smart. After 2017, the price just kept going up and up, as everyone knows. It hit an all-time high, then went into a winter, then another all-time high, then another winter. Most recently, in 2024, just a few weeks ago, Bitcoin hit another all-time high, around $70,000 per Bitcoin. It still hasn't gone anywhere. So if you ask about the banks, even though they're on the opposite side from Bitcoin, everyone knows, banks know too, that our world is definitely heading toward a digital economy. Finance will have to become digital because who wants to keep using paper money? It harms the environment to produce paper currency. Plus, there are more and more services and products that require digital money because all kinds of trade and transactions are moving into digital systems, right? Even if it's not Bitcoin, there are still financial innovations in digital money coming out, like the half-half scheme. Yes, it's digital money, but it's still digital money that's controlled by the government or the current financial system, which is CBDC. However, we're not going to talk about CBDCs in this video. So why do people ask why Bitcoin millionaires tend to look at Bitcoin from only one perspective and hype it up so much, like Tim Draper does? Well, there are some opinions that, when you hear them, actually make sense, which are: some people have come out and said that it's possible Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme. Now, I'm not saying this myself, and my mom isn't saying it either, so don't start any drama with me. I'm just sharing what I found. This information comes from a YouTuber named James Daw, who has 1.9 million subscribers. He said that the only way Bitcoin investors can make money from Bitcoin is by using money from new investors.
The only way to make money from your Bitcoin investment is you use the money from new investors.
And then there's another person, Dr. Nicholas Weaver from Mashar University, a professor of computer science and mathematics, who said that the people who make money from Bitcoin do so because there were people before them who lost even more than they did.
Hear about people making money, and some people make money because others lose out. That's what it comes down to.
So there's this perspective that, hey, Bitcoin isn't really money. It's not truly decentralized money. It's basically a decentralized Ponzi scheme. The principle behind Ponzi schemes or pyramid schemes is pretty simple. You use money from new investors to pay the old investors. The old investors are at the top of the pyramid, right? And you constantly need to bring in more new investors. Just keep adding more and more so you can keep paying upwards. But the Ponzi scheme or pyramid scheme will collapse if new investors stop coming in. Even Warren Buffett has said that you can't really ask about the value of Bitcoin because Bitcoin doesn't create value. It doesn't generate returns. It doesn't have a company. It doesn't have a factory that produces anything of value. All right, so let's think about this like a stubborn kid, okay? Like, I know it sounds reckless, but I just have to try. Bitcoin has really fought for its place, proving itself for 15 years now. Its price has skyrocketed. There's no other asset in the world that has gained this much value in such a short time or attracted this many investors. If it was not real, if it was not truly something, why would so many investors get involved? Is it really just because of greed? Bitcoin's price has never really stopped surging, because there are always new investors coming in, right? And that's because a massive amount of money is flowing into Bitcoin. The reason it hit an all-time high this time is because the Bitcoin spot ETF was just approved in January 2024, and it only took 51 days after approval for as much as $12 billion to flow into Bitcoin. Plus, Bitcoin has already gone through 4 halvings, which means the reward paid to miners has been cut in half 4 times now. The most recent time, it's down to just a little over 3.2 Bitcoins. That means when you mine, you get less Bitcoin as a reward. So is it still worth it? Why are miners still around? It's because the price of Bitcoin keeps going up. Even though the reward goes down, the price increases. That means halving is actually one of the mechanisms that pushes the price of Bitcoin up. Because if the price didn't go up and nodes weren't making a profit from mining, people would just leave, right? But here, the price goes up, so miners are still making a profit, which is why more and more nodes keep joining in. That's why nowadays the idea of using a regular home computer to mine Bitcoin just isn't possible anymore. It can't be done. Now, if you want to mine Bitcoin, you need an enormous amount of computing power, like a full-on Bitcoin farm. So why do people still keep mining Bitcoin? It's because it's still profitable. And how do I know there are still a lot of Bitcoin miners out there? You can see it here. The more people compete to mine Bitcoin, the more people mine, the higher the difficulty gets. And this is the Bitcoin difficulty graph. You can see that ever since Bitcoin started up until today, okay, there was a bit of a dip during the crypto winter in 2022 and 2023, when the number of miners dropped for a short while. But as soon as the price started going up again, wow, the number of miners shot up, and the Bitcoin difficulty just kept rising and rising. This means the miners never really went away, even if Bitcoin's price fluctuates or the rewards decrease. And as for Bitcoin transactions, since Bitcoin was created up until now, there have been over 900 million transactions, almost a billion, and not a single transaction has ever been successfully hacked. As for other projects or coins that people say are Ponzi schemes or pyramid schemes, they may have already been weeded out by nature. Whether it's OneCoin by Ruja Ignatova, FTX by Sam Bankman-Fried, or Luna by Do Kwon, these are all coins that came after Bitcoin. So those have already been naturally eliminated. If something doesn't meet the real standards of digital currency, it gets weeded out. But just to be clear, I'm not saying that Bitcoin is completely safe or that Bitcoin is a scam. The truth is, there's really only one reality. Is that a Conan quote? No, but yeah, that's it. There's only one truth when it comes to Bitcoin. It just takes time to truly prove it. In the future, if a system is well designed and works well today, and it continues to be good into the future, so much so that Bitcoin can actually become the world's currency, then Bitcoin would truly be a real asset, something you could genuinely call digital gold, a true global asset. But let's say that one day, whether it's people, the system, or some kind of technology, if something manages to successfully destroy the Bitcoin system, then on that day, Bitcoin would end up being labeled as such. Swift scam. That's really all there is to it. The truth is, nobody really knows for sure. Only time will tell.